Now let's talk about packages. Packages contain information on boxes or shipments of products sent to an SHC store. It identifies dimensions and weights, brand, hazard information, country of origin, HTS code, and fabric metal content. So you as the vendor own most of the information that's located on the Packages tab. There are 3 types of packages that can be created. There are each packages, cartons, and pallets. So every each item has to have a corresponding each package. Also, carton and pallet creation is dependent on each packages. If you don't have each packages created, then you have nothing to put into your cartons or pallets. Each packages get a retail marking number, also known as an RG10 or UPC. For most businesses, this will be the 12-digit G10. There are a few businesses with some other variations, but it's usually the 12 digits. Now, there are several types of cartons. You have your each carton, which is different from your each package. You also have a uniform carton and an exploding assortment carton. So those 3 are the most common types of cartons that are built. Additionally, we have mixed or assorted cartons, as well as sellable cartons. All cartons require a shipping marking number, also known as an SG10, an I-205, or a G1014 barcode. So in each carton is a really large product, such as a refrigerator, a washer or dryer, or a bicycle. And each carton is sold in the same box that it's being shipped in. Therefore, it has to have both the retail marking number and the shipping marking number. A uniform carton is multiple eaches in specific quantities. So it could be 24 units of the same exact size and color shirt, or 12 units of the same exact water bottle. An exploding assortment carton is an assortment of items. So for apparel, that could be 2 smalls, 4 mediums, 4 larges. For the hardline side, it could be something like batteries, an assortment of AA's and AAA's, C and D batteries. So it's just an assortment. And keep in mind that all of the eaches that go into the cartons have their own retail marking number. Then they go into the cartons, and that carton gets a shipping marking number. So this is what an exploding assortment carton looks like within IMA. So over on the left side, you can see that there are different KSNs, and each of the KSNs have their own unique UPC. Over on the very far right side, you can see the quantity of each of the UPCs. Now, mixed and assorted cartons are a bit different. If you do mixed or assorted cartons, those actually cannot be data synced and they have to be built manually. So again, if you need assistance building items manually, you can always reach out to the help desk at imahelp@searshc.com. Additionally, mixed and assorted cartons can only be created typically just for Kmart items, but to be more specific, it has to be items going through the Kmart ordering system. So technically, you could build mixed or assorted cartons for Sears items that are going through the Kmart ordering system. It would be something that's not done often, so if your buying team is suddenly asking you to do this, I would just double check and make sure that that's what they're meaning for you to do. So everything within a mixed or assorted carton has to have the same cost and selling price, and it's important to understand that sales and inventory cannot be tracked for the individual UPCs. It can only be tracked at the KSN level. So a mixed carton is one KSN with fixed quantities of multiple UPCs, and an assorted carton is one KSN with unknown quantities of multiple UPCs. Alright, so let's take a look at the mixed carton. So again, a mixed carton is known quantities of multiple UPCs. So in this example, we have 24 6-ounce bottles of bubble bath, 8 peach, 8 vanilla, and 8 orange. So we know that we are getting 8 of each of the scents from the vendor. Now, once that product arrives in the store, we will not be able to track it at the scent level. So we won't know how many peach or vanilla or orange are selling. We'll only know how many total bottles of bubble bath are selling. So this is what a mixed carton looks like in the system. On the left side, you can see that there's a single KSN. It's the same KSN all the way down. And then under the retail marking number column, you can see that there are different UPCs listed. And then over on the far right, you can see that there is a quantity specified for each of the UPCs. Now, an assorted carton is unknown quantities of multiple UPCs. This is used a lot in toys. So for example, you could have Matchbox cars, beach balls, or swim goggles. Another common item this is used for are figurines. So let's say Ninja Turtle figurines. Now, we may know that the vendor is going to send us a total of 20 Ninja Turtle figurines, but we will not know how many of each specific one we're getting. So we won't know how many Donatellos or Raphaels or Leonardos we're going to get. We won't know how many Splinters we're going to get. It's really up to the vendor to decide what to send us. And once it gets to our store, we won't be able to track it at that individual level either. We will only be able to know how many Ninja Turtle figurines we're selling. So in IMA, this is an assorted carton. So again, over on the left, you'll see that it's the same KSN all the way down. And there are multiple UPCs under the retail marking number column, but that each quantity column is blank because we don't know how many of each of those UPCs we're getting from the vendor. We only know the total number of eaches we're getting in the carton. So we also have retail cartons, which are known as sellable cartons. This is pretty much just used for oil and cigarettes. So the customer can either buy the case, or they can break open that case and buy individual units. Alright, so next we have pallets. So there are two types of pallets. You have a uniform pallet and an exploding assortment pallet. Now typically pallets are only used for Kmart items, just like mixed and assorted cartons, or rather items going through the Kmart ordering system. This does not mean that Sears items cannot be shipped as pallets. It just means they can't be set up in the system as pallets. So if you have a Sears item and you need to be able to ship it on a pallet, you would build it as either a uniform carton or an exploding assortment carton, and then just place it on a pallet. And just like with the mixed and assorted cartons, pallets cannot be data synced. So if you need to build items as pallets in IMA, you would have to do those manually. So a uniform pallet is just like a uniform carton. Some examples would be bleach, potting soil, and fertilizer. An exploding assortment pallet is just like an exploding assortment carton. So some examples could be back-to-school pallets containing notebooks, pencils, rulers, and highlighters, or children's assorted sized underwear and t-shirts. Alright, quick knowledge check. What are the 3 most common types of cartons created in IMA? Alright, the answer is each cartons, uniform cartons, and exploding assortment cartons. So there are several fields relevant to the vendor on the Packages tab. The vendor owns most of the fields on this tab. So you have your package type, your retail shipping marking number, the marking number format, the dimensions and weights, hazardous information, HTS codes, country of origin, fabric metal content, and package configuration. So here, this is an each package, and if you look at the top under package type, you can see it says each. Below that, you see the retail marking number and marking number format. Further down, you'll see the dimensions and the weights. And then below the weights, you'll see hazardous questions. Now, it's really important that these hazardous questions are answered correctly. We did have an instance a couple years ago where these questions were not answered correctly, and a product actually ended up on a plane that should not have been there, and it actually started a fire. So everything ended up being okay. They took care of the fire, so no one was harmed, but that could have been very bad. It could have been a very bad situation. So it is very important that these questions are answered correctly. If you don't know the answers, be sure to speak with someone else at your company that knows your product better, and get these answers from them. Below that, you'll see HTS codes. So some people know what HTS codes are, some do not. So let's say that we come and we pick up product from your warehouse and we're taking it to one of our DC locations, and our driver gets pulled over. He may be requested to produce a list of all of the items in the truck. Now, the HTS codes that are put on your items during the setup process are what populate that list. So I know sometimes it can be difficult to find an exact match for your item, and that's okay. Just find the closest match you can. So below HTS codes, we see fabric metal content. So you just want to make sure that you answer these questions correctly. So for example, let's say that you're supplying bed sheets and you told us that they are 100% Egyptian cotton, you want to make sure that that's reflected accurately in IMA, as well as if they do I can't remember what it's called, an audit for your factory, they may refer to the information that was put on the item in IMA, and they'll want it to match up correctly. Finally, to the left of fabric metal content, you will see country of origin. Now, you can add as many countries as you need to for the country of origin. I know sometimes part of a product may be made, let's say, in China, and the rest of the product may be made in India. So you can add both of those countries on there. Now, if you do only list the US as the country of origin, please make sure that it really is legitimately made just in the US, because a lot of customers want to purchase US made products only. So we do want to make sure we're providing them with correct information. Alright, so this is what a carton package page looks like. Up at the top, you can see this specific one is an exploding assortment carton. So you always want to double check that your configuration is correct. Further down the page, you will see dimensions and weights again. Now, these dimensions and weights are for the carton, not for the each, so they will be different from the each because they have to take into account everything that goes into that carton. Dimensions and weights must align with GS1 standards on cube measurement. The cube is calculated by depth times width times height for both the each and the carton level. So let's take an example. The each dimensions are 5 by 4 by 2. So that means the cube for that individual each is 40. And then let's say the weight is 5 pounds. So let's say we have 2 of those eaches in a carton. IMA is going to sum the each's cube and expect the carton cube to be equal to or greater than that sum. So if the each dimensions are 5 by 4 by 2, and that cube is 40, we would multiply that by the number that's in the carton, in this case 2. So the cube sum for the carton, at minimum, would have to be 80. So if the carton dimensions only add up to a 79 cube, that would result in an error. Now, we do have quite a large allowance for going over that cube sum, but if it's grossly over, like 500, that would also result in an error. And then the each weight is 5 pounds, so the carton weight would have to be 10 pounds. So if you get a warning whenever you check for errors, keep in mind that warnings can be ignored because you are within the allowance. So there's nothing for you to fix if all you get is a warning. You only need to make changes if you get an actual error. So the carton dimensions must be correct or there may be potential charges. It's really important those carton dimensions are correct. This is the information we use to plan pickups. So if we're expecting your product to take up the entire truck and then you only require half of the truck, that's going to cost us money because we could have scheduled a second pickup. In the same idea, if we were expecting your product to take up half the truck and it actually took up the entire truck and we had a second pickup scheduled, that's going to be costing us money because we didn't schedule it correctly. So there could be potential charges whenever your carton dimensions are not correct. Exemption rules. So if items are compressed, stacked, or nested, let's say we have pillows. Pillows could be compressed inside of cartons, or if you have something like chairs that can be nested in each other, that can qualify for the exemption rules because the carton can be less than the cube sum value in those instances. Another example would be if a display is packed within a shipper. It might make the carton grossly larger than that minimum cube sum value. There are no exemptions for the weight. The carton weight must always align with your each's sum weight. So if exemption rules apply, you can change the dimension exception indicator flag to Y on in-process items. So if you're working items through the new item grid, you can locate this by clicking All to view all the fields. So to update this on operational items, we're actually going to walk through that in our session 4 training. So that's going to be the IMA maintenance session. Now keep in mind that the dimension exception indicator flag only needs to be set at the UPC or each level. So cartons do not need the dimension exception indicator flag set to Y.